Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another class on drama in English. In the class yesterday, we talked about block 1. We discussed the 4 units prescribed for your study, the first 4. In the class yesterday, I also told you that there are 4 plays prescribed for you in this semester in the course drama in English. The 4 plays that you have to read are King Lear, A Doll's House, A Streetcar Named Desire, and Lights Out. The 4 units that we discussed in the class yesterday are, as you can see on your screen, Origin and Development of English Drama. We looked at the life and works of William Shakespeare in Unit 2. Then we studied King Lear in Unit 3 and Unit 4. In the class today, we are going to take up Units 5 to 8. The titles of the units are there on your screens. Unit 5 is titled Introduction to Modern English Drama. Like in Block 1, in Block 2 we will study life and works of the dramatist. In this case it is Henrik Ibsen. And the Unit 7 and 8 are devoted to a study of the prescribed play, A Doll's House. So these are the 4 units that we will be discussing in today's class. In the class yesterday, we looked at the origin and development of English drama. We talked about mystery plays, we talked about miracle plays, we talked about morality plays. We understood what is meant by interludes. We looked at the Elizabethan theatre. And when we were looking at the Elizabethan theatre, we also looked at the university wits. And then we straight away jumped to the Restoration Age because, as I told you, we would talk more about Shakespeare and his contribution to Elizabethan theatre in a later unit. So from university wits, we jumped straight to the Restoration Age, where we talked about the Restoration drama and specifically about the comedy of manners and the heroic tragedy. We looked at both of these. We looked at 18th century drama. We talked about how there was sentimental comedy and anti-sentimental comedy, and how the major dramatists of this period are Sheridan and Goldsmith. We looked at the 3 different types of tragedies that were used during this century: the classical tragedy, the romantic tragedy, and the domestic tragedy. We looked at some examples of sentimental comedy and tried to understand its features. We also looked at the features of anti-sentimental comedy and some example plays. Then we looked at the Victorian age, who were the major dramatists of this age, what was their contribution. And then we also talked about 20th century drama. This is what we are going to discuss today also, because this is modern drama. This slide that you see on your screen now that we discussed in the class yesterday will also be used in our presentation today. In Unit 2, we looked at the life and works of Shakespeare. We looked at what Shakespearean tragedy is, what are its features. We looked at Shakespearean comedy and its features. We also had a quick glance at Shakespearean sonnets, though this is not a part of the course drama in English, but because we are talking about Shakespeare and his contribution, we also talked about sonnets here. Then in Units 3 and 4, we talked about King Lear. We quickly went through the plot of King Lear. We looked at the different characters. We looked at the roles of these characters. We also looked at the theme, what is the dramatic technique that was used by the author here, and other things. From here we move on to the discussion that we are going to take up in today's class. In today's class, as I told you, we are talking from Unit 5 to Unit 8. The title of Unit 5 is Introduction to Modern English Drama. Some of these points that you see on your screen now may be repeated in the slides that follow. In the slides that we will be looking at now, whenever we are talking about modern English drama or modern drama, you will find certain repetitions. You'll find Ibsen mentioned here, you'll find Shaw mentioned here, and you'll find them mentioned in another place. We are talking about realism in this slide. We'll be talking about realism in other slides also. Let us take a quick look at what we have on the screen so that we get a very quick understanding of modern English drama. Modern English drama is a late 19th century phenomena. It emerged during this time, and there was a lot of experimentation happening in English drama. The focus of the playwrights was on political commentary. Most of them wrote about or discussed or made the political situation a part of their plays. Ibsen, who is considered to be the father of modern drama, was also the person who introduced realism. The play prescribed for your study, A Doll's House, is a play written by Ibsen. Henrik Ibsen had a profound influence on another English dramatist, that is George Bernard Shaw. The plays written by George Bernard Shaw are very light-hearted and they often deal with social problems. They are problem plays or plays that deal with ideas. We also have another dramatist called Brecht, whose plays were used to attack capitalism because Brecht was in favor of Marxism. Somebody's mic is on, please mute. The realism that was proposed by Ibsen and very well used by several dramatists of this period was replaced gradually by playwrights like Beckett and Ionesco. Both Beckett and Ionesco, please mute, popularized the absurdist theatre. In the slides that follow, we will also talk about the theatre of the absurd. In the class yesterday, we also talked about, or we made mention of the theatre of the absurd. We talked about Samuel Beckett and we talked about one of his plays, Waiting for Godot. One other dramatist of this period experimented with expressionism. We'll be looking at some of these concepts like realism and expressionism a little later. To understand modern drama and its main characteristics, this slide will be of some help. Modern drama depicts real-life situations in real time. I told you a little while ago that Henrik Ibsen, who is considered the father of modern drama, also introduced realism. So the drama of this period tried to make things as real as possible. The characters are very realistic, they are not far-fetched, they are rooted in reality. The recurrent themes in modern drama, as you can see on your screens, are, and these are just a few, it is a social critique, it is a critique of the society. So very often you find this theme reflected in modern drama. It also revolves around human weaknesses and physical limitations of the characters. When we studied Shakespeare's King Lear in the class yesterday, we talked about King Lear being written as a 5-act play. King Lear is divided into 5 acts. In this case, the plays are 3-act plays. The 3 acts present the exposition, the development, and the resolution in each of the acts. As we shift from the modern drama and we come to the postmodern drama, we find that the 3-act plays are also replaced by 2-act plays, in which this is how they're divided. Act 1, we talk about the before, what happened before, and in Act 2, what happened after. Gradually, we also find 1-act plays becoming popular. Looking further into 20th century drama, as I told you, modern drama or 20th century drama is drama of ideas. It is the mode that the playwright uses to express his ideas for social change, and the playwright feels that expressing these ideas, which could bring about social change, is much more important than depicting action on stage. So we have a very intelligent presentation of the problems of life in 20th century drama. Like I told you a little while ago, Henrik Ibsen, the founder of realism, deeply influenced George Bernard Shaw, who wrote several plays in English. And these dramatists make it a point to create reality on stage. When we watch their plays, when we look at what is happening on the stage, we get the feeling that yes, this is all real, it is not imaginative. Another aspect of modern drama is expressionism. In the slides that follow, we will be talking more about expressionism and also about realism. Now, this movement in modern drama critiqued the government. They felt that there are certain things happening in their respective societies where the government is responsible. So wherever they felt the government lacking in something, or wherever they felt that change was required, the dramatists felt free to critique their respective governments, and there was a lot of intense show of emotions in their plays. These writers also talked about the failure of society on several grounds, and very often we find that the scenes that they present are very fragmented, just as human life during the two world wars, in between the two world wars, was extremely fragmented. There was a lot of disillusionment among the people. There was a sense of what am I doing here? This big existential question was bothering a number of people, and we find this reflected in the plays of the 20th century. In the class yesterday and today, a little while ago, I mentioned the theatre of the absurd. I talked about how Samuel Beckett was a great writer of the theatre of the absurd, and his example play there is Waiting for Godot, as you can see on your screen. When we look at the history of modern English drama, some critics prefer to divide it into phases. Some call it the early phase, the middle phase, and the last or the final phase. But I don't prefer to use the early phase or the middle phase, because I'm not comfortable with the third phase being called the final phase, because drama is still evolving. We still see drama being staged or presented or published. So I'm just using the terms phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 to talk about the three major periods in the history of modern English drama. In phase 1, we have Henrik Ibsen. Remember I told you, Henrik Ibsen is considered to be the father of modern drama. And in English, we have George Bernard Shaw, John Galsworthy, who belong to this first phase. Most playwrights of this phase were inclined towards realism, towards depicting reality as it was. Whatever was being presented on the stage was a depiction of reality. After some time, we find a slight shift to naturalism. This drama, modern drama, is drama of ideas. We have a number of problem plays being written. What you see next on your screen, the last 3 bullet points, are the names of famous playwrights of this period, of this phase, and some of their works. Your SLM gives a complete list of the playwrights and their plays. Ibsen's A Doll's House, that is prescribed for your study, that we will be discussing in a little while from now, and 2 of his other plays, When We Dead Awake and Ghosts. It is interesting to note that when Ghosts was first, produced, there was a lot of furor against it. People did not like it, and it was condemned. George Bernard Shaw wrote a number of plays: Arms and the Man, The Apple Cart, Major Barbara, Pygmalion, St. John. Pygmalion is converted into a movie, and it is titled My Fair Lady. It makes very interesting watching. If you're interested, you may watch the movie My Fair Lady. It is easily available on YouTube. Then a play by Galsworthy that is presented here is The Silver Box. Then we move to the next phase, that is the phase 2. In phase 2, we have the Irish movement. The playwrights who popularized this were from Ireland, and we find a deep sense of nationalist spirit in their plays. The names that you see reflected contributed a lot to this phase. This was also the time when the Irish National Theatre was established in Dublin, Ireland. Because these things were happening around World War I, we find that the pessimism that is deeply felt during this period is reflected through the use of expressionism, surrealism, and Dadaism. As I told you a little while ago, we will be looking at these terms a little more carefully. There are 3 terms given on your screens: surrealism, expressionism, Dadaism. There is another movement, Impressionism. These are surrealism, expressionism, Dadaism.
Yes.
Please mute yourself. Are movements in visual arts and literature. Surrealism emerged as a reaction to the alleged destruction caused by rationalism, which culminated in World War II. That is, surrealism was an attempt to merge dream and reality, to unite the unconscious and the conscious realms. Uh, Two examples of surrealistic plays or surreal drama rooted in surrealism are Jean Genet's The Maid and Eugene Ionesco's The Chairs. In the slides that follow, we will be looking at one or two more examples. In 1924, André Breton published the Surrealist Manifesto, and he is considered to be the main spokesperson of the movement Surrealism. In Surrealism, we find that there is a startling juxtaposition of words which are not based on logic, but on the unconscious thought processes, because these artists felt that there should be a merging of the dream and the dream and reality. And in the unconscious realm, when we watch a dream, does the dream follow a sequence? It does not. We see it fragmented, and the same pattern is presented in surrealism. I mentioned André Breton a few seconds ago, how he was the chief spokesperson of surrealism. One point to remember about André Breton is that he was deeply influenced by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud, if you remember from your first semester, is a very famous psychoanalyst. Then let us take a quick look at expressionism. What do we understand by expressionism? Expressionism seeks to present the subjective emotions and responses that objects and persons arouse in a person. It does not seek to depict reality, so we find a shift away from realism. It is personal and it is a spontaneous self-expression of emotions. The I, the subject, is more important in expressionism. This mode of art or literature was very popular between the two world wars, and Van Gogh's works are extremely rooted in expressionism. In drama, when we look at expressionism in drama, we understand that it is the use of language to express the inner emotions of characters rather than describing the action of the play. So the emotions of the character, the individual, is more important in expressionism. One example of expressionism, you will see more examples in the slides that follow. So one example is Eugene O'Neill's The Hairy Ape. From here, let us shift and focus a little attention on Dadaism. How Dadaism started, how this term came about, is not very clear. Some people say that a group of artists in one of their meetings stabbed a plastic knife in a dictionary, in a French-German dictionary, and when they opened it to wherever that knife was inserted, the word there was hobby horse. That is the French word for this is Dada. So they thought that yes, let us use this word Dada or Dadaism for what we propound or what we believe in. Hobby horse, I think you all know, is a favorite topic. It is a subject or a topic that someone feels strongly about, or that one likes to talk about. So Dadaism is an anti-aesthetics movement in arts. It initially started in Zurich, Switzerland, where all those who believed in Dadaism mainly focused on the issues surrounding the World War I. However, when Dadaism spread and when it came to New York, America, the focus now shifted to mocking art itself, to mocking art establishment. So we have one of the artists who presents a urinal as a work of art. And there was again a lot of furor. People felt aghast. How could such an unaesthetic thing be projected as art and presented? But for the Dadaists, for the people who believed in Dadaism, the mental activity of the artist was more important than the object of art. So it was an unrestrained attack on all established conventions, but it did not find much favor. It could not become popular. And eventually, by 1922, Dadaism had disappeared. One other ism that we should know when we are talking about modern drama is Impressionism. And an example of Impressionism in drama is Anton Chekhov's The Seagull. Now, this movement, like the other movements, started in late 19th century and early 20th century, and it started in France. Impressionism was an attempt to accurately and objectively record visual reality. This is in arts, in painting, using effects of light and color in paintings. In drama, Impressionism lays emphasis on creation of mood and atmosphere over plot and character. So we have a lot of sound effects in such impressionistic plays. When I was talking about surrealism, I gave you examples. Here are a few examples of surrealism. The Maid and the Chairs by Jean Genet and Eugene Ionesco respectively. For expressionism, I have used three examples. Eugene O'Neill's The Hairy Ape, I have already told you, and Emperor Jones. August Strindberg's Miss Julie and the play The Father. Then Sean O'Case's Juno and the Peacock. Then we move to Phase 3. The famous playwrights of Phase 3 are presented here on your screens. T.S. Eliot's Murder in the Cathedral and the Confidential Clerk, Christopher Fry's The Ladies Not for Burning, Bertolt Brecht's Mother Courage and Her Children, Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, Jean Genet's Our Lady of the Flowers, and Eugene Ionesco, The Rhinoceros. The last listed play is extremely important. In this play, we find the protagonist and his friends, and the protagonist is surprised to find one after the other all his friends turning into rhinoceros. One after the other, one person turns into rhinoceros, the other also wants to become a rhinoceros, and one after the other they all end up becoming rhinoceros. But the protagonist himself feels that no, I don't want to be a rhinoceros. I will remain what I am. So we find this herd mentality in the people living in amongst us. What some one person does, everybody wants to imitate that person and become exactly like that. Even ideology. We find that one ideology is being proposed and everybody starts following that ideology without using our own inherent ability to think. From here we move to the Unit 6, which is on the life and works of Henrik Ibsen. There are a few, 5 bullet points here. You can take a quick look at these and then we can move to the other unit. He was born in 1828 and died in 1906. He was a Norwegian by birth. He belonged to Norway, but he imposed exile on himself. And he lived in Italy and Germany for several years, decades in fact. Initially, he started his career as a theatre director, and later he started writing plays. As I told you a little while earlier, Henrik Ibsen is considered to be the father of modern prose drama, and he is also considered to be the father of realism. When we were studying Shakespeare, we looked at how drama was written in, it was not in verse, except for a few passages where prose was used. Please mute yourselves. A few examples from the works of Henrik Ibsen are given in the last slide. Please mute yourself. The complete list of works by Henrik Ibsen is available in your self-learning material. Somebody please. One of you is after my phone. Please mute yourself.
Ma'am is speaking to Hindi and Urdu and Arabic.
Please, this is MA English class. Please quit and mute yourself.
Yes. Please quit. And only for
Please stop
Hindi
talking.
and Urdu and
Please stop
Urdu.
talking. Please stop talking. Please mute yourself. This is MA English class. If you're not a student of MA English class, please quit. Please leave the meeting room. Please mute your mic. A few plays by Henrik Ibsen are A Doll's House, An Enemy of the People, and The Wild Duck. Unit 7 and Unit 8, as I told you, deal with A Doll's House. The year of The Doll's House is 1879. Unit 7 is devoted to a study of the background, the plot, and the characters. As I told you in the class on King Lear, it is important that you read this play, The Doll's House, for a better understanding. By just hearing me talk or by just going through the SLM that is given to you will not be of much use. Reading the original play by the will you mute yourself? Please mute your mic. One of you please type in the chat box with a request to mute the mic. Okay, in Unit 7 we are going to talk about A Doll's House, the background, the plot, and the characters. As I told you, this is a 3-act play, unlike Shakespeare's King Lear, which was a 5-act play as we discussed in the class yesterday. A Doll's House is set in a Norwegian town called Circa around Christmas time. One act talks about the day before Christmas. In Act 2, it is Christmas time, and in Act 3, it is the day after Christmas. So we are very closely into the Christmas season in this play. And this, as I told you, is a realistic prose drama. Coming to the plot, Doll's House depicts the life of the protagonist, Nora Helmer. It is becoming very disturbing with the background sound. When my presentation is on, I cannot mute yourself, mute the others. One of you please type in the chat box and request everybody to mute their mics. The background sound will affect the recording also. We are also wasting our time. Okay. I'm sorry. If there is sound from the student side, I won't be able to proceed. It gets very difficult, please. The background sound will affect the recording. Yes, I think I'll have to continue with the background sound here. I'm sorry about it. Whoever has their mics on, I once again request you to please mute yourself. A Doll's House deals with the life of the protagonist, Nora Helmer. Nora Helmer is married to Torvald Helmer. You can see the names of the characters on your screen now. When the play opens, it is one day before Christmas, and we find Nora Helmer happily returning home with a lot of shopping. She has a lot of shopping bags with her. She comes in very happily, and she would like her husband to come and see what she has bought. Torvald, when we first hear him and when we first watch him, appears to be a very caring and loving husband. And our initial impression of both Nora and Torvald is that they are a very happy and caring couple. Torvald comes and talks to her about her shopping and gently tells her that she should avoid spending so much and that they need to save. Through their conversation, we learn that Nora and Torvald had some difficult financial situations in their life. But now, because Torvald has got some promotion, he works in a bank and he has got some promotion. So there is some financial stability. But Torvald nevertheless tells Nora that she should be a little more frugal in her spending. As they are talking, we find other characters coming in. We have Dr. Rank, who is a good friend of both Nora and Torvald, come in. We have Krogstad. Krogstad works in the same bank as Torvald. He's in a lower position there. The story is like this. Nora needed some money to pay for her husband's illness. Her husband was very ill and they had to move to Italy for treatment. They had financial problems and they did not have enough money. So Nora wanted some money. What she did is she forged her father's signature. Her father was also sick. She forged her father's signatures to borrow some money. And because she did this, she had to secretly work so that she could pay back the loan. Torvald does not know about the loan. He is under the impression that it has been given by his father-in-law. He does not know that there has been some deceit or some cheating by his own wife. But Krogstad knows all this. It is through him that Nora forged her father's signature and took the loan. So Krogstad starts blackmailing Nora. Torvald, who's now in higher position in the bank, does not want to continue with Krogstad. He wants to remove him. So when Krogstad learns that he will be removed from the job, he comes to Nora, tells her that she should make sure that her husband does not remove him from the job, and he has a threat. If he is removed, he will tell the husband about the forgery. Nora tries to convince Torvald to retain Krogstad, not to remove him from the job, but Torvald is not at all pleased with the working of Krogstad. He is considered an immoral person. Dr. Rank also considers him to be an immoral person. During the course of these events, we have Christine Lind, another character emerging on the screen. She is an old school friend of Nora. From their conversation, we learn that Christine also had a very difficult life. Initially, she was taking care of her old sick mother and her two younger brothers. Her mother is now dead. Her brothers are old enough to take care of themselves. But Christine is now alone. Her husband is dead and she has nobody to take care of her. Life has become very difficult for her. So she has come to Nora to seek her help through her husband. She wants Nora to request Torvald, the banker, to find Christine a job in the bank. Torvald comes on the scene. Nora tells him that Christine is her old friend, desperately in need of some job, and would Torvald help her? Torvald says she has come at a very good time and that yes, there is an opening in the bank and he will take her in. In the meantime, through the conversation where Dr. Rank is also involved, we notice that Dr. Rank has been ill for several days now, and his illness has now increased and he's terminally ill. He has inherited this illness from his father. His father was a good-for-nothing person. He was immoral. He spent time with a number of women, and because of this, he got some venereal disease, which we learn has been passed on to the son. Though Dr. Rank is an upright person, a very moral person, but he is now paying for the sins of his father. At one point in the play, Rank also confesses his love for Nora. But before that, we find that Torvald has removed Krogstad from the job in the bank. Krogstad comes to Nora very angry, blackmails her further, and his conditions are now more. He says now that not only should he be replaced in his job, but he should get a higher position. Otherwise, he will put all those papers before Torvald, and he will know that his wife has cheated on him by forging her father's signature. Nora is terribly depressed. She doesn't know what to do. She cannot tell her husband the truth, and the husband remains firm. He does not want to take back Krogstad. When Dr. Rank is there, Nora is just about to ask him for his help, telling that this is how Krogstad is blackmailing her and would he be kind enough to help her out of this situation. But before she can tell this to Dr. Rank, he tells her that his illness is now more serious and he may die any day. So he also makes use of this opportunity, because they're alone at the time, to tell Nora that he loves her. The moment he expresses his feelings of love for Nora, Nora now cannot tell Dr. Rank anything about Krogstad. She feels very vulnerable at this stage to tell him and take his help. We also have a small role of the nursemaid or the nanny. She takes care of Nora and Torvald's children. There is also a scene in the play where we find the children on stage and Nora taking good care of them, playing with them. So we find her in the role of a very good mother. In the opening scene, we found how Nora and Torvald are very loving, very caring, very faithful and loyal to one another. Now, as the story develops, we find that Nora has not been faithful to her husband. She has cheated him. There is an element of deceit in the relationship. She borrowed money without his knowledge. She lied to him, and she also committed the crime of forgery. We have seen Torvald as a good husband, but as the play proceeds, we find that he also is not a very good husband. He can have very strong negative feelings for Nora. So now, this friend who appears on the scene, Christine, when she sees Krogstad, she immediately realizes that this is the same person with whom she was in love earlier. Before her marriage, Christine and Krogstad were deeply in love, but Krogstad at that time was poor. He had no money, so Christine chose to reject him to get married to a wealthy man, because her mother was sick and her brothers needed her help. She was not marrying a wealthy man because she needed wealth, but because her family needed to be supported. So now when Christine meets Krogstad, and when Nora tells Christine about all this, she trusts Christine and she says that this is her situation, and Krogstad has already told her that he's going to send a letter to Torvald. Christine has a plan. She says, do one thing. You prevent Torvald from opening the letter and reading it. In the meantime, I will go after Krogstad and try to convince him to take back his accusations. So we find Nora, the next day, the day after Christmas, there is a ball, a dance program, and she, just to prevent her husband from looking at the letter, she tells him that, help me to practice for the dance. Out of her confusion and anguish and trauma, she is not able to dance properly, and Torvald decides that he should help her to dance well, because they hardly have any time before the next day starts. So some time is lost, and Nora successfully prevents him from looking at the letter. In the meantime, the next day starts, the day after Christmas. They go to the ball. She has a very good time. People appreciate her. They come back home. Torvald also praises her, saying that, oh, you looked so nice, your dance was so good, etc., etc. In the meantime, Krogstad and Christine have a talk. Christine tells him about her life, why she rejected him, what was her weakness then. She also tells him that now she's free of all her responsibilities and she would be happy to be with Krogstad once again. When Krogstad finds his lost love, he's ready to forgive Nora, and he writes another letter. In fact, he sends all the documents back, so there is no proof left to show that she has forged the papers. And he tells Christine, okay, now you can go and tell her. But now Christine plays a very different role. She says, no. Let's do one thing. Let Torvald read the letter. Why should we hide the letter from him? It is about time that Torvald and Nora also come to terms with one another. Let there be truth between the two of them. So on the day after Christmas, we find Torvald opening the letter, reading the contents, and losing his temper. He gets very angry with Nora. He feels that he has been cheated. See, this is a society that is male dominated. It is a patriarchal society, and for Torvald, it is a big insult that his wife borrowed money for his illness. He cannot digest that fact. And he also finds blame on Nora's father. It is like Your father was like that. He was a spendthrift. You're also a spendthrift. You're not a good mother for your children, because if you have cheated me, you will bring up your children like criminals, etc. So there is a lot of negativity that we see on the stage. Just then, the other letter comes, and it is revealed that because Nora by now has repaid the complete loan, Krogstad has no ill will against her. He has returned all the papers, so they're safe. Their reputation is not tarnished. Then Torvald changes his attitude. He's ready to forgive his wife and accept her. In fact, earlier he says, "I will not allow you to meet my children anymore." When he knows that everything is fine now, he changes his attitude. But by now, Nora has changed her mind. She does not want to live with her husband. She does not want any custody of her children. She is happy that the nursemaid, the nanny, will take good care of her children. So she tells her husband that you have treated me like a doll, and you have not shown me any respect as a human being. So we find complete reversal of the characters. What we thought them when we saw them in Act 1 is not what they actually turn out to be. The nanny's role is small, but it serves one purpose in the theme, and that is to show how she has also made some sacrifice to take care of Nora when she was a child and to take care of Nora's children after her marriage. The nursemaid or the nanny, Helen, has also sacrificed her own children. Now we come to the last unit for today, and this is, in this last unit, we continue to discuss A Doll's House. The main concentration will be on the theme or the different themes that are projected in the play. We'll also look at the different techniques that the author employs, and we'll try to attempt a critical appreciation. About the theme or the themes in A Doll's House. There are several themes. In your SLM, the theme of feminism is listed, the theme of deceit, the theme of parental and family obligations, the theme of marriage, theme of reputation, theme of unreliability and appearance. So if we were to look at these different themes under major heads, we would once say that a major theme in A Doll's House is the theme of the sacrificial role of women. All the women in this play have some sacrifices. They have sacrificed something for the sake of other men or for the sake of others, not for their own sake. Take, for example, the protagonist, Nora. There are so many sacrifices on her part. When her husband was ill, when they were going through financial crisis, she lived a very frugal life. She did not spend money. When her husband gets a better job, a better position in the bank, she goes out happily, makes some purchases for Christmas time. We also find Nora sacrificing care for her father to take care of her husband. Her father was sick, her husband was also sick. But as a devoted wife, she felt it is a duty to take care of her husband. And she stays behind looking after Torvald, her husband. There is another woman, okay, the other aspects of sacrifice. Because she took the loan and because she does not want to hurt her husband, Nora takes up jobs without his knowledge. So whatever money she earns, she uses it to pay off the loan. The other character in the play is Lind, Christine Lind. Christine Lind also has a number of sacrifices. Remember, I told you that her mother was sick, her mother was old and sick. She had younger brothers who needed to be taken care of. So she has sacrificed her whole life taking care of a sick mother and bringing up her two younger brothers. She was deeply in love with Krogstad, but she even sacrificed his love because she needed financial support to take care of her mother and brothers. Krogstad was not financially sound, so she decides to marry a wealthy man. After the death of her husband, she finds that she is all alone and that there is nobody to take care of her now. So we find sacrifices here again. About the nanny, I told you just a few moments ago that to take care of Nora, to take care of Nora's children, the nanny has sacrificed her own children. While she should be taking care of her children, she is here in Nora's house taking care of her children. So we find all the women characters in the play sacrificing their lives for the sake of others. This is one major theme. Another major theme revolves around the role of parents. What is the affiliation that one has within the family? What is the bond? In the case of Nora, as I told you, her father was sick, her husband was also sick, but she preferred to be with her husband rather than with her parent, rather than with her father. In the course of the play, there are several dialogues where Torvald talks about parentage. He feels that young people who become criminals have had mothers who were not good. So a bad mother makes criminals, is his opinion. There are also several dialogues in the play where we learn about what each character feels are the responsibilities of parents, and we also learn about what are the obligations of children towards their parents. For example, in the case of Christine Lind, as a child, as the daughter, she felt it her responsibility to take care of her mother. As a sister, she felt it her responsibility to take care of her brothers. About Nora, as I told you, there is a scene where we find her as a very good, loving and caring mother. So she is also a very devoted mother. And it does come as a surprise that she feels so frustrated that she feels that it is now time that she lives life on her own and that her husband and her children don't need her anymore. Excuse me. We also have the relationship between Dr. Rank and his father. Even though Dr. Rank suffers, is terminally ill, and because his illness is a result of his father, we may feel that Dr. Rank will have a lot of ill feeling or hatred towards his father. But he seems to understand that though his father lived an immoral life, we don't find him using any harsh language against his father. About Christine Lynn, I have already told you. Then one other major theme that we find in Doll's House deals with how appearances can be deceptive. What we see in Act 1 is not the same as the scenes proceed. Nora and her husband are not a very loving couple. They are not always happy with one another. Crosstard, who appears to be very evil, is not as evil as we take him to be. We think Dr. Rank is a highly respectable person, a very good family friend of the Helmers, but when the husband is not around, he has expressed his love to Nora, which again is not a very good thing to do in a respectable society. There are various situations in the play where we find that situations have been misunderstood by the different characters. Then we also have the gender roles. It is a patriarchal society that is depicted. Torvald, the head of the family, does not want the wife to do anything for him. He does not want to be dependent on his wife. But then he's really not a very supportive husband. He does not provide her emotional support when she needs it. So we find a lot of vulnerability of the women. See, if Torvald had been a very supportive husband, Nora would have told him that I am borrowing money from my father. Because she knows he doesn't like it, she has to resort to all these deceitful activities. Again, if Torvald had trusted his wife enough, she could have confided in him and told him that I have taken a loan, I need to repay it. For that, I need to work. Now, everything has to be kept secret because the husband is not as supportive as he's supposed to be. And we find many such situations in the novel. In the end also, when Torvald gets very angry with Nora, we might find that it is not a big deal. This is something that happened earlier. And if she has done something wrong, it was for the betterment of the family. It was to take care of Torvald. But he does not look at it from that perspective. It is a play. In a play, the mask has an important role, and here we find different characters wearing different masks as part of the deception. That is also an important theme in the play. Another major theme that we find in this play is the theme of marriage. Nora and Torvald as a married couple. We also see Dr. Rank expressing his love to a married woman. We have Krogstad and Christine, who were in love earlier but who could not marry. So the theme of marriage is also quite carefully developed in the course of the play. In the course of the play, there are several characters. We have already looked at the different characters. No one character can be called as the mouthpiece of Ibsen. Every character speaks as an individual character. So there is no such bias in the author, in the playwright, and no character in the play is used as a mouthpiece. The point of view that we find depicted is the point of view of the individual characters, and we learn to appreciate them at their own individual level.